All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Chairman Show, sponsored by the Bethlehem Republican Committee. Today we have a guest on, Fire Department Chief, Slingerland's Fire Department Chief Craig Slurs, and we're going to be talking more about his candidacy a little bit later in the program. I just wanted to open up with talking about agency. And what I mean by that is, how can we make an impact on what's going on in the world around us? So we see what our local town government is doing. We see what Kathy Hochul is doing. We see what Joe Biden is doing. We see what's going on in the world, and we want to make an impact. How do we do that? We do that by realizing our agency. And what I mean by that is, you can go on Facebook, you can complain about things, you can complain about Joe Biden, you can complain about Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum, but in the end, we have to focus on what we can do to make an impact. And really, the only impact that you can have is by local action, joining your local committee, making a donation to your local party, supporting local campaigns for people that you believe in, people that you support, people that align with your values and your belief system. That's really what we have to do more of. What I typically see is, out of every 100 people that are complaining and ranting and want to see change, we only see about maybe 2 or 3 people get involved in local politics and actually do something. Whether that's a donation, whether that's buying tickets for a local Republican event, whether that's joining the committee, running a campaign, whatever it is, something that can make an impact. So I want everyone to think about, anyone who watches this, I want everyone to think about, what is it that you can do to make an impact and to start change, right? So I've heard people talk about secession, I want to go to a state that's going to secede. That's not going to happen, right? People talk about revolution. We need a revolution to change things. That's not going to happen. What we need, if there is a revolution, it's going to be an intellectual revolution. It's going to be people getting off their couches, turning their TVs off, and actually taking political action locally that can impact change. So, of course, there's going to be times where we rant on social media. It's cathartic. We want to get our ideas out there, and that's certainly important. But what's more important is taking that next step, joining your local committee, making a donation, supporting campaigns of people that you believe in financially, buying tickets to local events, volunteering to go door to door and talk to your neighbors, all of those things. So just something to kind of think about. How can we become more impactful and turn our discontent into action and impact? Okay, so with that, I would like to introduce our show's guest today, and that is Slingerland's Fire Department Chief Craig Slurs, who's going to be running for Highway Superintendent. Craig, can you talk a little bit about who you are and your background?
So, Jim, first of all, I would like to thank Uncrushables for allowing us to use their facility today and my home with my event. So, I've been a resident for 50 plus years, just like you, born and raised here in the town. Went to high school here. Before I even got out of high school, I joined the local fire department. I started out in Delmar, 18 years old, and I continued in the fire service right up until now, where I am active as the chief of the Slingerland's Fire Department. Before that, I've been a town employee for 27 plus years. Started as an animal control officer, police dispatcher, and then when I retired in 2021, I retired as a traffic safety investigator.
So how many years do you have as a police officer and a firefighter combined?
Combined, it would be probably 70, 80 years combined. 27 as a cop, 50 plus, or 40 plus as a firefighter. So, and that's not including my family.
Yeah.
My family, I mean, everybody in my family is, public service related. My father was.
The Slurs is a big name in town, for sure.
My father was a police officer for 33 years for the town. He retired a year after I joined the Bethlehem Police Department. So
whenever you say the name Slurs, people always say, which one?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they get confused. There was somebody that was giving me a plug on one of the social media sites, and they were actually talking about my brother. So, it's the Slurs are always around. We've worked for the town of Bethlehem. We've been dedicated to the town of Bethlehem for, I know for most of my life. So, I mean, and it's something that I still want to do, even though I retired.
So you and I were talking months ago about the direction of the town and our concerns and things like that. I mean, I never had any dreams of getting involved in local politics. The town that I grew up in was a great town. There was a lot of kind of bipartisanship. There were Republicans and Democrats. But everybody was pretty much on board with the direction of the town, and there wasn't a lot of fight. Now we have these constant fights. We have the Delaware Ave Road Diet. We have Prop 2. We have Beacon Island. We have all these things going on. The slide tank replacing the dive tank at the town park.
Yep.
It just seems like it's one fight after another. And I think a lot of us that grew up in a town that everybody got along and everybody kind of had the same vision, and now there's this polarization and this fighting, and we've lost all these open spaces. You see our farmers leaving and our forests disappearing, and a lot of that's from tax pressure. I think about all the reasons that made me want to get involved. Why did you decide to step up and run for office? Because obviously this isn't something you need.
No. I mean, listen, I've worked public service, pretty much my whole life. I've seen the direction of this town, and specifically the highway department, going the wrong way. I see that the fiscal responsibility of the way the highway department's going right now is out of control. I mean, and that's in my personal opinion. Just seeing and hearing things that are coming out of that highway department in regards to purchases that don't need to be made. And I was a Democrat. I was a Democrat for most of my career.
You were a Democrat when I talked to you.
Yeah, that's right. And then I always thought about changing parties before I even retired. But the sense was you need to stay a Democrat. To be on the good grace.
Stay in your lane. Stay in line. Don't make any waves.
Right,
keep your mouth shut. It's been that way for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, and you're basically you're not being told that, but it's a thing that hey, you should be a Democrat if you're going to be an employee of this town.
Yeah.
And and I stayed that, and I did what I had to do, and like you said, I love working for the town. I love working for the people in the town. I mean, do I have people that dislike me for writing them tickets? Absolutely, but at the end of the day, they still appreciated what I did and thanked me after when I got done. That's the thing that I love about this town. And then you're right. This town is fighting battles that don't need to be fought, that don't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, they may make sense to other people, but they definitely don't make sense to me.
I think the Delaware Ave Road Diet is a great example of kind of a mindless, odd battle for town government to pick.
Oh,
and here's why, right? There were 41 businesses that came out publicly in the Delaware Ave corridor that said, we do not want this. This doesn't make any sense. It's going to hurt our business. It's going to cause traffic. It's going to divert cars over to 9W and 32. This is not a good idea, right? You would think, forget about Republican and Democrat for a second, you would think that as major stakeholders in the town, that the town government would listen to their businesses and say, okay, we thought this would be a good idea, but obviously it doesn't make any sense for the stakeholders that are in that corridor, that are paying all the taxes and doing all the work and creating all the jobs in town. Let's move on to something else, right? But no, it was a death match to the end, right? I mean, we had to take it to a referendum vote.
Exactly.
And even though there's a massive disparity in registrations, Democrats out-register Republicans by something like 7,700 voters, the Delaware Ave Road Diet failed because so many people, including a lot of Democrats, realized this is a horrible idea.
Right.
But for me, if it was one of those battles in an isolated instance, you would say, okay, that's just an aberration. But it just seems like every year it's one fight after another.
Yeah, and like I said, I disagreed with the road diet 100%, and that's just coming from my my time in the police department. The amount of crashes that we have on Delaware Avenue would go up as far as I'm concerned. I mean, when they put the roundabouts in, they put the roundabouts in all over, that was a great idea. It reduced the number of severe accidents they had in this town.
Yeah.
And now they're just minor property damage accidents which is better. You know, nobody's getting hurt. You know, maybe a little bumps and bruises, but nothing major that, you know, would be in these. And that's some of the stuff that we need, some of the thinking that we need in this town. And I don't think that we're heading in that direction.
My understanding too was that the last fatality in the Delaware Ave corridor was something like the 80s. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Do you know exactly?
It was before I was a police officer.
Yeah, so I believe the last fatality in the Delaware Ave corridor was sometime in the 80s.
Yep.
So we're talking, 40 years ago.
Yep.
Whereas if you have cyclists biking right next to cars, the risk of a pedestrian fatality goes way up.
Right, and it's not safe. I mean, you have a rail trail, literally 200 yards, you know, to the south of Delaware Ave.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason to put people on, a busy street like that, and you're going to have more wrecks.
Yeah.
I mean, because and that was always an issue with with pedestrian accidents and stuff like that. As bicycles, think they have the right of way, motorists think they have the right of way. Bicycles have to follow the same rules as motorists. Motorists have to follow the same rules as bicycles. And sometimes that doesn't happen, and to endangers people's lives by putting them on a main thoroughfare as Delaware Avenue, I didn't see that going forward good.
And things like that doesn't come down to blue team, red team. That just comes down to good idea, bad idea, right?
Smart thinking.
And I think, as chair of the Republican Party, I've tried to create a vehicle for good ideas. It's not about mindless battles for the sake of mindless battles. It's about, let's get a better direction for our town.
Absolutely.
I don't think we're heading in the right direction. You see the farms going away, the forests going away. You see all these kind of crazy ideas. We violated our own moratorium for a huge low-income housing project. It's just all these things, and everybody in Selkirk is up in arms, and yet it doesn't matter. They don't care what the people in Selkirk think. They're more interested in, giving the tax credits and this contract to some Ohio-based firm that happened to donate a lot of money to the Democrats. So, that's just a bad idea for the town, and it's disappointing that the residents of Selkirk aren't being listened to. So it's just kind of all these battles. So with that, obviously we've talked about our concerns and the direction of the town, and I think the reason why we're all getting involved is because of that. And I think that speaks to agency, like I was talking about in the beginning, is
Agreed.
You've probably been unhappy for a few years now, right? I mean, this didn't start yesterday.
No. Oh, no. Definitely didn't start yesterday.
So you've looked at the town and you've said, okay, we're heading in a bad direction. And you've probably complained to friends and had discussions with people. But the truth is, none of that made an impact.
No.
You running for highway superintendent is what's going to make an impact.
I'm certainly hoping so. I mean, I think I have a lot of great ideas. I think my background in, traffic safety within the town and seeing a lot of the road issues within the town, I think that's going to benefit me 100%. I've already spoken to, residents, when we did our Thanksgiving, meal down in, at the Grange. I mean, some of the residents came from the Selkirk area. We're very happy to see that, that I was running, and they want to see changes. They want to listen to me. I want to listen to them. I mean, like I said, I think serving our public is number one.
Yeah.
Listening to our public is number one.
Absolutely. So, whether it's candidates or the organization as a whole, another thing that I've said about the Bethlehem Republican Committee is I don't want it to just be arguing politics all the time. I want to make sure that we're a force for good in the community. Right. So that Thanksgiving meal service the day before Thanksgiving, seeing people come in, people that need a meal, people that need some human interaction, seeing people from the town, talking with these people. It was just a great event. It was very heartwarming, and it's something that I want to do more of. So not only are we going to do that again and partner up with Swifties, but we're also going to do veterans and first responders breakfast this year. So we're going to figure out a good time. We want to make sure that we don't have a conflict with anybody else.
Right.
But we're going to be putting on that event, and of course you're going to be there.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to be there.
Absolutely. I mean, it was great being down there at the Grange on Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving, and serving meals and helping the public out and doing whatever we could. I think it's a good feeling.
I think the best aspect of politics is service.
Right.
Service to others. It's not always arguing or winning. It's about serving. The policy is very, very important, but people have to understand that, again, we're in this for the right reasons.
Right. I know I am. I mean, my whole life has been public service.
Yeah.
And it's still the public service. I love being a firefighter. I love, protecting and serving. Yeah, I mean, it's in my blood. It's from my father to my uncle to my brothers. I mean, it's born and bred in us.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big positive note, to put out there is that, you look at just the Slurs family in town, we probably got maybe 200-300 years of service together.
Yeah.
In this town.
Yeah.
I got a brother that works in the water department, a brother that works down at the highway department. I got a son that works for the town. My older brother worked as a police dispatcher for 30 years. He retired. I mean, he's working still. I mean, he's working in a doctor's office, but he's still serving, and I think that's one thing about the Slurs family is that we're here to do that. And we're not going anywhere. We're not leaving town like
like
a lot of
some people, and we can understand their frustrations.
Right.
It's not, we're not casting aspersions on anyone that's left. We know the frustration. We wouldn't be involved in local politics if we weren't frustrated.
Exactly.
But what you and I and many others have talked about is, let's have the battle and let's try to win back the town and create an environment for future generations that we benefited from growing up.
Exactly. And like I said, I mean, if we can do what we want to do and go in the direction that we want to go in and make this town better than it's ever been, I think that people need to get more involved in politics, the Republican Party itself, and let's move things to a better direction.
Exactly. The Republican Party, a lot of people they have a version of this party or that party. In the end, this is just a vehicle for good, right? I mean, there are elections.
Right.
We have a two-party system. The Democrats are running town hall right now.
Yep.
If you love what they're doing, if you love the comprehensive plan and bike lanes everywhere and high taxes and low-income housing and they're getting rid of fossil fuels, so gas stations are going to go away. And if you love that, you should vote for them.
Right.
If you're concerned and you want to see the town go in a different direction, you should give us a look.
Absolutely. I think anybody out there that really looks into what's going on in this town really needs to look at the way we're going in our direction and what we want to do for this.
Yeah, I think we're creating a clear alternative. And again, our party's not just about winning on election day or arguing about politics all the time. We have a golf tournament, we have a picnic, we have service events, we volunteer for things. I mean, we're a force for good in the community, and we want to expand that. I talked to a gentleman last night who is considering running, but his feedback to me was, I'm frustrated, but I don't know what to do. How do I get involved? How can I have an impact? And so I explained, you can join the committee, you can run for office. There's all these things that you can actually, rather than screaming at your TV or, talking to your spouse about your frustrations, you can actually get off the couch and do something. And it was like a light bulb went on. He said, I'm definitely going to join the committee and I'll consider running for office. And you can see these people getting engaged. So the big thing that we have to work on, and, culture change takes time. I always say that. We have to work on turning discontent and frustration into action.
Right.
So with your campaign, we talked about service, and I know one of the things that you've talked about in your agenda is talking to residents, talking to employees at the highway department, and trying to get a sense of where are the gaps, where are the outages, and what can you do better to make the employees happier, better morale, more productive, but then also addressing the residents' issues and making the town a better place for residents, lifting the burden off of some of our older residents, things like that. So if you could talk a little bit about that and other items on your agenda that you want to tackle as highway superintendent.
So first thing, well, you might as well hit it right off the bat, is this last snowstorm we had. We actually had an email come in from a concerned resident to us stating that his sidewalk on his street was never plowed during the last storm. So, I mean, there was, 3-4 inches of snow on their sidewalk and nobody had come by. And, that was one of his concerns. One of my concerns, access. I mean.
And this was like 24 hours later, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at least 24 hours later.
Yeah.
And I've had multiple people, with issues in regards to the sidewalks. Kenwood Avenue, from the Four Corners to Cherry Avenue. They're so unlevel. They're not, they're just filled with blacktop. I mean, they haven't been redone in years. You've got where trees have grown up alongside the road and made, mounds out of these sidewalks, and they're unsafe for people to walk.
Right.
I mean, I would walk them myself, but you'd be afraid to fall and trip.
And there's a lot of older retired people
Exactly.
in town. Yeah, maybe it's not a hazard for a 20-year-old, but it's a hazard for a 60, 70, 80-year-old.
Exactly.
So we have to make sure that those things are safe for the entire town.
Right. I mean, other issues, and I know that they've worked on this, but from basically Kenwood Avenue, from Claremont Street or something like that, all the way down to the ballpark, there's no real sidewalks. And every year I would see kids riding their bikes from there down to the ballpark on the edge of the road. That road is not wide enough as it is, and you're going to put kids there that want to ride their bikes down to the ballpark. We need to get sidewalks in there. I know there's been some issue with some residents there that won't give up their front lawns for the safety, but I mean, we need to work on that. We need to try and get these residents to understand, listen, you're doing a service. You don't want to see a kid get hit by a car, and that's the way, if we want to start, protecting our children and our residents, we need to start giving up a little bit, and making access to the ballpark, so there's a sidewalk,
In critical areas, right?
Exactly.
Like that.
I mean, not all areas are done, and there's been a lot of sidewalks put in throughout the town, but I think there's a lot more to work on, and I think we need to think about safety of our children and our residents, and I think that's where we need to start right there, so that's one of my main issues, and I want to try and get done, when I get elected. So,
What about fiscal responsibility? So I've heard some things about the trucks that they're using, what they're equipped to do. We've talked about the spring and fall cleanups and things like that. So those areas, where do you see opportunities?
Well, getting the spring and fall cleanups. They've gotten rid of spring cleanups. If you want stuff picked up, you got to bag it up, put it alongside the road, and then they'll pick it up.
Yeah.
They don't have the leaf machines out anymore during spring. Let's put them back out.
Yeah.
Let's help our elderly residents. It's still work out in the yard, but it's easier for them to rake or blow the leaves out to the side of the road, and then have the town come and get them.
I can tell you for me, I mean, I don't like bagging stuff.
No.
It's a real pain in the behind. So I can't even imagine when you're older trying to go through that process.
I mean, even the elderly, but then you got all the lawn companies in town that now spring cleanup, they have to load everything up and bring everything down to the compost where they're getting charged, and I guess the town's thinking about changing that to a fee for the landscaping companies that come in, instead of every time you go down there you get charged. That'll be a one-time fee,
like a permit or
something like that. But like I said, I mean, I think we need to take care of our residents, and bringing back spring cleanup is the number one thing.
Yeah.
We have, and getting the fiscal responsibility, waste, and that's all I see. They bought 4 brand new trucks, dump trucks, and they turned those dump trucks into salt trucks, permanent salt bodies. So basically, the 4 brand new vehicles they have, and I think they're getting more. Those 4 brand new vehicles can only be used during winter months when you need to salt the road.
Yeah.
They may use them to pull around the big leaf machines and stuff during fall. But what about the rest of the year when they're sitting there and not doing anything?
In your opinion, what should they have done?
They should have had dump bodies on them, and they could have slide-in salt, just like they've been doing for years.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no reason to change that.
Yeah.
It worked perfectly. It made more sense. And
it
now,
probably saved the town money. Because,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
you get them year round rather than having 2 sets of trucks.
Well, yeah, and then they sit there. I mean, they sit there all year. They have 2 tandem dump trucks that either get used for paving season or hauling salt or something in during off times. But I mean, most of the time they're sitting there. This year hasn't been a really snowy season, so a lot of the trucks are just sitting around doing nothing right now.
Yeah.
The guys are out working their butts off, and I see them every day. But I think they need more guidance, and I don't think they're getting that guidance from the top. Like I said, we can get into the police cars. We've got a company out of Rotterdam that's now upfitting our cars. We always used to take the cars there to have the stickers put on. They do a great job with the stickers. but let's bring the work back to the employees.
Yeah.
We have qualified guys at the highway garage that for 21 years that I was a police officer, plus when I was an animal control officer, could do the work and do the work very well. They're great. I mean, quality work is 100%.
So why did we outsource it? Do you have any idea?
I think I think it's just due to the fact that, the current highway superintendent wanted to get it out there and have somebody else do it and free up the guys that now sit there and basically don't really do much, work on cars now. I mean, they'll still do the oil changes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, I just think it was to get, possibly, somebody else to do the work so we don't have to. And
But when you're paying people to be
Right.
employees of the town, if they're capable of doing that kind of
Right.
work, it doesn't make any sense to. It's like you're double dipping. You're paying employees that aren't doing the work, and then you're outsourcing. And
right, I mean, you could save right now at least $1,200 a car by bringing them back.
Yeah.
To the town and having the town, and that doesn't count the cost of having somebody bring the cars to Rotterdam,
Yeah.
which is at least an hour and a half drive, back and forth. Drop the car off, and then come back. And then if you're bringing multiple cars, then you're pulling, somebody from the police department, somebody from one or two guys from the highway department. You still got to pay them to go out. So keeping everything in town, you're not paying that extra money to drive out there. So you're worried about gas, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not paying all that extra money to get cars upfitted when you got the quality guys or the guys at the highway department that can do the actual work.
yeah,
It doesn't make sense. It's not fiscally responsible as far as I'm concerned. And the whole point of my campaign, and I've said this from day one when I announced it, is being fiscally responsible, saving the town some money, and working, and getting a better work environment for our guys. I mean, and that's just a number one thing.
and listening to the residents.
Well,
right? We talked about that.
that's number one,
Yeah.
no matter what you say. I mean, the residents are number one as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But we gotta start saving this town some money, and I can do that. I mean, I've done that. The last 5 years I've been chief of the fire department. The last 3 years I've saved over. This is just a rough guess, $250,000
Yeah.
that I've saved out of my budget so we can buy a new piece of apparatus that we need. So I don't think that the current highway superintendent is doing that.
I think that's another aspect of your candidacy that's important for people to know is you have a lot of experience managing budgets. So not only do you manage budgets at the fire department, but you also have your own small business,
Right.
and you have to manage the budgets of your small business. So you have years of experience managing budgets, which is going to be important to save the taxpayers money when you're the head of the highway department.
Even the last 6 months I was working at the police department. I was assistant to the chief, and I was in charge of paying bills and working with the budget for the police department, so I know how our system runs in the town. Was I thrown into it? Yep, absolutely. But I caught on and I did what I had to do,
Yeah.
and it just, you need that, you don't need somebody that, is just, very rarely shows up to work, and, likes to buy things just to buy things. He has bought things that replace equipment that needs to be replaced. I've been told that by multiple guys down there. But there's also waste. And, like I said, I believe there's another one or two, salt trucks, dump trucks coming in, to replace other trucks that are basically need to be replaced. And, some of the other things down there is, training. They have gone on the wayside of training.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, and then we'll wrap up. So let's talk about, you and I have had some discussions about the training that needs to be happening down there and why. Why is it so important to the employees and the residents of the town? So talk to us about that.
So back when Tiger Anastasia was highway superintendent, I had reached out to him and we had talked about bringing state DOT in just to go over the proper securement of vehicles, of loads, haul around loaders or anything like that. So it was like we did it like a day, the guys learned a lot. They were very interested. They understood what we were trying to say because, if they hook up a vehicle and they take it down the road and they get in an accident and say a loader flies off and that's not secured, I mean, they should still be held liable even though they work for the town.
Yeah.
So I want them to understand that we need to make sure that they're doing things safely. And, just to bring, somebody from state DOT or our own police officers. We have 2 police officers right now that are fully state DOT certified. And they can come down and talk to the guys and show them what they need to do to make sure everything's secure. This is throughout the town, not just with the highway department. You can bring the guys in from DPW because they haul stuff around. So bringing state DOT or our own police officer in to train these guys is something we need to do. I've heard that, they used to do traffic training, which is flagging training and stuff like that. I heard that's gone to the wayside. I've heard there's, really not much training going on. It's been like 2 years since they've had any kind of training. I don't know if they've had CPR first aid training, but that's a major thing. You want to be working out alongside the roadway and you got one of your guys that gets hurt, you want your employees to be able to assist your other employees and help out.
Yeah.
Some of them, there's a lot of firemen down.
Recently, sorry to interrupt, but we actually just saw the importance of CPR with the Monday Night Football game, right?
Absolutely.
Damar Hamlin goes into cardiac arrest, and if somebody wasn't trained
Right.
very well in CPR, he would have passed away for
Right.
sure and saved his life.
Right. And during downtime right now, the winter time right now is the biggest downtime they have. They're out there trying to find stuff to do. Like I said, the guys are doing a great job. They're doing what they're told. Like I said, they need more guidance. They need more training. They need, just
Leadership.
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
They need somebody that's going to be there 8 hours a day, 24 hours a week or whatever, 24/7. That's what they need, 365, and they don't have that right now. Their current boss is there a couple hours a day, maybe.
Yeah.
And and he made it.
And it's a
publicly
full-time
known.
job, right? It's a full-time job.
Right.
If
And
you
he
take
made-
that job, you got to treat it like a full-time job.
And he made it public knowledge that he doesn't have to be there 8 hours a day and make it a full-time job. And I don't see how you can run a business, because that's what it is. It's a business without being around.
Well,
Without-
also the town is paying full-time pay for that job. So
Right.
if you take the job on and you're not going to do full-time work, then the salary should reflect that.
I'm going to be there 8 hours a day. If my guys are in there and they're working and they're plowing, I'm going to be there right along with them.
Yeah.
If they need help, I'm a guy that'll help. I get yelled at by the guys, my officers at the fire department, because I'm always involved. I'm always picking up hose, I'm doing something like that. They
Yeah.
say it's not your job. I said, I don't care if it's my job or
Yeah.
not. I'm still gonna do this. I'll go out and wash trucks with them. I'll do whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the same. If I get elected and I'm the highway superintendent, I'm gonna be right there working with the guys.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be there to say, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that, because that's not my job.
Well, it just doesn't work, right?
Right.
So as a chair of the committee, we have to do all kinds of things, whether it's put on events or go door to door passing out flyers. I don't think it's really appropriate to ask people to do things that you're not willing to do yourself.
Exactly.
So, if we're passing out flyers, I'm out there. I'm knocking on doors, I'm dropping off flyers. If we have a service event, I have the apron on, or I'm greeting people at the door, whatever it is.
Yep.
I think you have to lead by example to really motivate the people that work for you.
I agree, and that's what they need down there. And like I said, I'm hoping that even when I get elected, that I can show these guys that I'll do good for them.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to go.
Well, Craig, we thank you for your decades of service to Bethlehem. We're thrilled that you're running for highway superintendent for the Bethlehem Republicans. We're very high on your campaign. We think that you have a great shot to win. I've seen so many people come out and support you. And, the first day that you announced, you had something like, 200 engagements on Facebook. And I didn't know 75% of the people.
Right.
So you already have this huge network of support, which is great. And, this is going to be a full year of talking with residents, doing events, connecting with people, building this movement, growing this movement of good ideas, right? That's all it is. It's a movement for good ideas. So, I think we're gonna get our message out this year, but I also think we're gonna have a lot of fun doing it,
Exactly.
which is also important. So, just as we wrap up here, I want to make sure that everybody knows Craig is having a fundraiser on February 16th at Swifties. I think it's 6 to 9. Is that right?
Yeah, 6 to 9 at the Swifties in Albany. And the reason for that is, in case people are wondering, is there's a bigger venue there and we can get more people. That's why we decided to go there. Plus, we're still supporting Swifties.
Yep.
So that's the big thing.
So we're supporting Delmar businesses. The room is just bigger on Everett Road, so we're going to take it out there. Tickets are $60. There is limited space, but there's still some tickets available, so we would love for you to support that. I'll have all the information up on the Bethlehem Republican Committee Facebook page, where you can go and how you can pay and things like that. And like I said, we're going to be doing things all year long. There's going to be more fundraisers for Craig. We're going to be announcing some other candidates. We have the picnic coming up in June. We'll have the golf scramble sometime in September.
Yep.
We'll have the Thanksgiving meal service right around Thanksgiving. So there's going to be all kinds of opportunities for you to get involved. And of course, anytime you want to reach out and join the committee, Craig joined the committee last year before he actually launched his campaign. And we're telling people every day, if you want to get involved and you want a better direction for the town, please join the Republican Committee, help us get the message out, help us support events. And that's really how you make an impact, and that's how you have agency, right? We're all frustrated, we all like to complain, but in the end, we have to translate that discontent and frustration into action. And so that's what we're trying to do here at the BRC. Thanks for listening today. Have a great day, have a great weekend. Thank you.